Hello, Poetry Africa Festival attendees online. Um, my name is Karen Jumba, and today I will be speaking to you about our digital archive, which is in development at the moment. Before I do get going with all the bits about it, I would like to offer apologies from my colleague, Steve Jones, who did a fantastic job of creating the website, the web designer behind the site, and also would like to give a big thanks to Tinazo Momo from the Center for Creative Arts, as well as Susan Flope from the Center for Creative Arts for assisting with the very arduous task of uploading a number of the entries that you will see today. So to offer some background to how this digital archive has come about, 2 years ago, the Center for Creative Arts was gifted with a grant from the National Institute for the Humanities and Social Sciences to work on its archive, that being its physical and digital archive. And this is based on the fact that the Center for Creative Arts has a massive repository of recordings stretching far back into the 90s, and for DIF, which is the Durban International Film Festival, stretching as far back as into the 1980s, on different kinds of formats, video, DVD, and now on YouTube. And we wanted to figure out what we could do with this repository, what kind of experiments we could partake in to activate it, and then also ask some kind of central questions around what digitization could mean for an artist. So last year, I had the privilege of working with Daniel Sheldon and Skotoele as the main creative team for a short documentary film called Poetics for Transformation. I will share the link in the chat. And that was based on taking the existing digitized recordings of the performances from 2013 up until 2017 and chopping them together with animated illustrations. There was also some call and response music that was given to us by Kanye Malo and Ule Lamini. We also used photographs for the ground up archive, which is open access. And that was stitched together into a really beautiful, dedication or reverence of the role that poetry plays within the social justice ecology. That was the first experiment that we got to do last year with this repository and this archive that is already implemented. And this year, which is what I will be presenting on, we got to develop a digital map. The digital map itself is based on entries that have been made into these lovely catalogues from Poetry Africa, stretching back from 1997 up until 2019, and then going online from 2019 up until this year. This is for all the visual artists in the room who get some design background. And so in a traditional digitizing setting, what one would normally do is scan page to page, and you would get an exact replica of your catalogs. So from the front page to back page, and you would have that preserved somewhere for somebody to essentially look through the pages, whether or not they have the actual physical copy of the object. But the approach that we took, oh, sorry, I should stay close to my laptop and speak louder. Sorry, I'm trying my best. Got you guys. The approach that we took this year is that we actually decided to look at the data that the catalog contained. So what could we build from this kind of information that was within the catalog? And the background to that curiosity came from my own kind of interest in terms of mapping ecologies. How do you take things or bits of information and start making sense of these things that you're not able to see immediately or on face value? And Ishmael's own kind of interest in looking at how documenting what has happened before can be able to facilitate or support better strategic planning for the program of Poetry Africa. So how can we use the digital space to better empower us to strategize for the next festival? And so the data that we ended up extracting from the catalog included the location from where poets and then funders and partners came from. We also looked at the years of performance or the year of funding. We looked at the participants' names, their biographies, their pictures, and hopefully in the future we're going to also be looking at the digitized performances. And then we also looked again at the funders and the partners' names. We looked at the sample poems. These are all things that are contained in the catalog, which makes it quite a nice, rich source for data. And then we also looked at the existing digitized footage of the festival. And today, our presentation is going to be quite brief because it's just me. But I'm going to let Steve offer his video contribution to the session. And then I will get into a live walkthrough of the actual website. So Bash, over to you. You're free to play the video.
Hi there, I wanted to give you a rundown of the Poetry Africa digital map archive. Basically, we've created two separate archive maps, one being a poet's map and one being a funder's map. So if you look at this funders map, for example, you can see there's a whole bunch of entries that have been added. They get clustered into little groups, but depending on the location. So for example, here, if you click in, it takes you a little bit closer to the source, and you'll be able to see some information of the specific funders in certain areas that have been involved in the festival. So you can use that to kind of manually dive a little bit deeper and see specifically the funders that have been involved in different festivals. And yeah, so this is just an overview. Basically, you can filter out these entries by year by using the toggles below or by using the filters above here. So if you want to filter 97, you'll see it highlights 97 and it shows you all of the entries below that were tagged in the 1997 festival. You can add multiple years to that selection, and you can filter out multiple entries. You can also use the search functionality to search for specific partners and funders. So you can search for Adams, for example, will pull up should pull up a list of entries with the term Adams. You can also use a location. So, for example, if I search South Africa, it will pull a list of the items that exist within South Africa. You can add multiple items to this list. So you could search so for example, if we search BP Southern Africa, we could also add a location to that search, and it filters out multiple entries for your search functionality there. So basically, that's how you can navigate through. There's also a list function below. So if you clear all your searches, you will see that there's basically a list of all the different festival funders and partners that are involved. If we go back to the Poets map, the Poets map is the same. You'll see the breakdown throughout different countries of the different poets. When you click on one of those entries, it'll open up a bit more information about that poet. Similarly, right now, not all the entries are here, but similarly, you can filter out specific years to see where those poets came from in the specific years. So that's basically it. That's the digital archive for Poetry Africa.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. You are missed, but your contribution was very much felt. Thank you very much for sharing that video with our viewing audience. I'm now going to do a live walkthrough of the website. And as you've seen from Steve's presentation, what this site essentially allows us to do is to walk through the festival's history from a certain perspective and quite quickly. So if you look along at these clusters here, this is the first 5 years of performances in the Poetry Africa Festival. And what has happened is that they've been grouped according to their geography. So we immediately, when we log onto this digital platform, digital archive, get a sense of where the festival has been. And as we continue to add entries around the poets, this will become more robust in terms of telling us where are the gaps in our programming, where have we not visited, where have we possibly visited too much, in order to aid kind of the liveliness or the experimentation of what the festival can do. And also to make sense of if there's one person who's come from a certain space, why is it that we have not visited there again? And in that way, we are aiding our strategic development or strategic planning for the festival. In terms of the Poets map, we are building this out to create a sort of network of poets over the last 26 years. And with this map, you are able to then, again, as I said, look into where you have been and then see who you have programmed before. I'm going to click you through here to our contributions from Europe. As you click the tabs, you're able to get closer and closer to where a person is from. And in this case, we're going to click over Gerard Muret from Paris, France. And here, as you see, as you hover over his pin, you're able to get a short explanation of who he is. And as we click through, you are then able to get his full biography and the beautiful snapshot that he submitted originally for his performances. And I'm going to take you down now. So as you'll see, as you click in, you get a closer and closer view about where you are in the world and who has come from there. We had, luckily enough, some people from North Africa. Amina Said, go down into the globe, into the continent, we pick up who has actually come through, what Nigeria we received, going down, some contributions from Nigeria, Alright, who actually described himself as having come from sub-Sahara. So as we just, where he has described himself as coming from sub-Sahara, as we click down, slowing down a bit. But I love technology, right overall view. We see some more entries here in Nigeria, over here from Accra, Ghana. We've got Kofi and Yoho. So as you click through different locales, you're then able to see who has contributed their talents or their literary offerings to the. Just trying to get us down to South Africa in order to give you an example of what it looks like when we build it out a little bit more as poets perform over the years. Just bear with me. We're going to see a lot of pins on this part of the world because a lot of South Africans have performed festival. So over here we see in the first 5 years of the festival, we had 12 people coming from Cape Town, specifically, Western Cape rather. Here, we're going to take a minute to focus on South African contributions. Get a lovely trail of contributions from IQ, Aaron Press, one of my personal favorites, Sam Kulu, Lloyd Souls, and Conan Arisitas. You get a good sense of where people have come from. I just like to click into Anki Prop as well, because at that time she had performed twice at the festival. And so this is what we're really hoping to build out a little bit more. Please receive some patience here as I wait for my page to load. So with Anki, what we see is a lovely transition. So in the first festival, she used quite a nice young picture of herself. But we see as we move to the next festival, how she has changed in her person. But also we get a better sense of the change. We get a really nice building out of the poet's story over time. And if somebody has performed multiple times, I'd say from the perspective of the Imashi, who has been performing from the late 90s up until to this year's festival, we get a really robust look at where poets have been in their professional journey. And I'm hoping that this gives you a sense of where we're going with this archive. It's not necessarily to create something that's static or set, but to be able to show that this festival has really had an amazing geographical reach, that we have been programming from across the world for a number of years, but there are still things that we can learn about why people are here or not here every other year. In terms of the archive itself, as we move forward, we are really hopeful for a number of things. The first is that Poetry Africa has got an amazing, as I said, repository of content that is sitting on different kinds of hardware or softwares. So it might be VHS, it might be a DVD, it might be on YouTube. And what we'd really like to do is to be able to have the capacity to digitize those performances so that when we build out those poets' profiles, we're able to then also see how that person has grown in their performance from the 90s, early in the 90s, up until the late 2000s, and also get a sense of how poetry Africa, or poetry within South Africa and across the continent has changed in this period of time. So to be able to present that visually and in motion. The second thing is that the beautiful thing about these catalogues is that people have submitted poems. And for those who write poetry, I think it might not be anything new because your work is accessible through a book or possibly through, if you're a blogger, then you would do that. But for spoken word artists who hardly write down what they are sharing with you, there's a really rich archive of content that is just sitting in these catalogs waiting to be released to the world. And so our second hope is that we'll be able to transcribe those sample poems so that when you're searching through any kind of poetry, our spoken word artists also get some kind of visibility on the internet. And then the third thing is that this map allows for us to analyze where the festival has been. So as you saw on Steve's video, kind of pick through all the different kinds of funders and partners. And you'll see that a lot of our funding actually comes from a European space, and then our partners come from Durban itself or within South Africa. There's those interesting trends to analyze. There's also the trends of analyzing where did our funding come from and for what reasons. So you'll find at the beginning of the festival, what happened is that it was funded a lot by the Dutch because it was a iteration of the Dutch festival, poetry festival from Rotterdam, and had somebody coming down from Rotterdam to assist the team in South Africa to set up Poetry Africa Festival. So over the first kind of 5 years, you see a lot of Dutch funding, and that shifts a little bit more. British were involved in the beginning, but not so much at this rate. And we're now moving into a very long and established relationship with the French in terms of supporting this festival. So it'd be interesting to then understand these dynamics of how is the transition from the Dutch to the French. And being able to put on analytical tools, analytical programs on this map would then really spark up its capacity to support strategic planning and better programming for the festival itself. And I think with that, I will close. It's a little bit awkward talking to myself, but I hope that you have received a kind of understanding of where we're going with the digital art. It's not simply about documenting the objects that are in there. It's about enlivening them and then seeing how we could use the information that they hold to make different kinds of decisions or to bring to light what is often not seen because it's not written or it's not mapped in all its complexity and all its depth and all its robustness. And with that, I'll turn back to Bash to guide me away from here. Thank you to all who attended. And if you have any kind of suggestions about how the archive could be built out, I think because there's so many possibilities in terms of is it photographs of the poets performing? Is it newspaper articles? Is it understanding who supported them to get there so we know that underlying kind of network sits? Please feel free to comment on the video so that we can also pick up those kind of curiosities and create something that people can actually use as a tool, as a way of exploring the festival in a way that you might not necessarily get to do if you attend a performance or speak to somebody who's not involved. planning or strategic planning side of the festival itself. To access the actual website, okay, so the link is going to be shared on the Poetry Africa page we're hoping November at the latest. You saw all those lovely entries that we have. Our funders map is now complete, and our poets one is very slowly but surely getting there as well. So by the end of November, look out for the link to this digital map. Thank you all so much. Enjoy Poetry Africa, especially online for those who are watching far away. And if you're in Durban, please come through. There is a UJ Poets performance tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. at the Howard College Theatre. There is a fantastic poets workshop by Cindy Busuku at 1 p.m., which will be discussing your craft and what is it that you're actually trying to do when you are a poet. What is your relevance and placing within the space? There is the Slam Jam final, which is happening at 7 o'clock, also at the Howard College Theatre. And lastly, we have Poetry Picnic in the Park on Sunday, which will take place from 12 until 4 o'clock. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your baskets, and come and enjoy the closing out days of the Poetry Africa Festival. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, if you are available this afternoon, there is the Mazi Sikunene Memorial Lecture, which will be taking place at Howard College Theatre, and which you can also access online. Thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure sharing this year-long work with you. I appreciate your presence.